Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
What if everything about success through superhuman discipline isn't just wrong, but is actually designed to keep you exploitable and isolated?
Yeah, that's really the core tension we're tackling in this deep dive.
We're going deep today, dissecting this really powerful modern idea. You could almost call it a cult of extreme productivity.
We've pulled together sources that basically perform a philosophical autopsy on this whole mindset. The one that demands you sacrifice pretty much everything. Health, connection, joy.
All in the name of relentless output.
Exactly.
So our mission here is to give you some cognitive armor. We want to go beyond just saying, oh, burnout is bad. Everyone knows that.
Right. We need to expose the actual structure behind it. The rhetorical tricks, the faulty logic, the psychological controls that these gurus use.
Because they profit from it, right? They profit from your shame, your exhaustion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start at the bottom, the very foundation of this whole belief system. We're calling them the 4 foundational lies.
These are like the basic axioms, the formulas they use to reduce human worth to something mathematical. It's kind of cold when you see it laid out.
It really is.
Okay, let's bring out the scalpel for the first one. The illusion of pure willpower. This doctrine, it kind of boils down to a really simple but honestly dangerous idea. Success equals like the summation of human will.
Uh-huh. And that's reductionism 101, isn't it? If success is only about your internal drive, your willpower, your grind,
Your grit.
yeah, then the whole framework just neatly ignores all the other stuff, the systemic things, the external factors that actually shape achievement in the real world.
It's like they just wipe the slate clean. Privilege doesn't exist in this model. Pure luck, random chance.
Ignored.
Inherited wealth, social capital, the market conditions when you started, all that messy real world stuff.
Just gone. Tossed right out of the equation.
And you have to think that's deliberate, right? It's not just an oversight.
Oh, absolutely not. It's profoundly strategic.
Yeah.
Because think about the consequence. If your success is 100% down to your willpower,
Then if you fail.
then the failure is 100% your fault. The entire burden, all that weight, it lands right on you. Your supposed moral deficiency, your lack of willpower.
You just didn't want it badly enough.
Exactly. You were weak. Simple as that.
It's kind of a perfect little trap, isn't it? It's unfalsifiable.
Totally. If you succeed, hey, look, the equation works. See how strong your will was?
And if you fail.
Well, you failed. The equation's still perfect. You just weren't good enough for it. So you never question the system itself.
You just beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Question your own adequacy constantly.
And that right there, that realization, that's the first step towards cognitive liberation. Seeing that this whole willpower fallacy is designed to blind you, to stop you from seeing the real structural barriers.
If you're spending all your energy optimizing your morning routine down to the second.
You don't have the bandwidth to notice the game might be rigged against you from the start.
Okay, so that's the shaky foundation. The second lie builds on that, and it gets pretty dark. The masochistic equation.
Mm-hmm. This is that toxic belief
Yeah.
that suffering is somehow proportional to success, that sacrifice actually equals achievement.
It turns everything into this zero-sum game. Like you have to destroy a part of yourself, practice personal annihilation almost.
Yeah, and they position pain not just as, sometimes you have to work hard and it's uncomfortable.
It's just true sometimes.
Right, sometimes it is. But they frame pain as the cause of success. The more pain, the more success. It becomes the badge of honor itself.
You see this in the whole delayed gratification mandate thing. This idea that total deferral of pleasure, like no rest, no fun, no relationships, definitely no joy, is somehow a moral virtue.
You're seen as ethically superior because you're denying your basic human needs.
What really gets me here is how it fetishizes avoidable suffering.
Yes, that's the key distinction. True resilience, the kind we actually need, is about facing unavoidable hardship, loss, failure, illness, things life throws at you.
Accepting what you can't control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this ideology, it encourages you to manufacture hardship, to willingly take on extra pain.
Like sleeping only 4 hours when you function best on 7, or deliberately overloading your schedule just to prove what? Your devotion.
Your devotion to the grind, yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes this weird performance of suffering. If you're not miserable, You're obviously not working hard enough.
It's a total perversion of real strength. Real power, as we'll get into, should come from like integrated living where your efforts are sustainable.
Not from just burning yourself out on purpose.
Which leads us straight into the third lie, the one that really treats you like, well, like a machine. Mechanical doctrine.
Ah, yes, the classic discipline is greater than motivation. You hear that everywhere.
And it sounds tough, it sounds hardcore, but it's a completely false dichotomy. Why do they have to reject emotions? Passion, curiosity, enjoyment, things that actually drive people.
Because emotions are messy, unpredictable. This system demands predictable output, mechanistic compliance. It needs you to be like a cog in a machine, not a person with ups and downs.
So they create this quantification lie, this weird physics metaphor. Energy times focus equals results.
Right. And suddenly, you, the person, are reduced to an optimizable biological device, the human-machine model.
You're not complex anymore. You're just inputs and outputs. Sleep isn't rest, it's downtime. Food isn't enjoyment or culture, it's fuel type.
It's incredibly dehumanizing when you spell it out.
And we see the practical outcome of this everywhere. We're calling it abnormalcy worship.
Ooh, I like that term. It's that very public, very visible rejection of normal life through extreme, usually measurable behaviors.
Exactly, because normal routines get you normal results, right?
Yeah?
And in this world, normal is basically failure.
So you have to stand out. You have to perform your extremity. Think about the rise of extreme biohacking rituals.
The ice baths at 5 a.m.
The 4-minute cold plunges, yeah. The 24-hour fasts done purely for efficiency, not for any deeper reason. The constant public declarations about needing only 4 hours of sleep.
It's performance art.
It absolutely is. And that mantra, normal gets normal, it's a classic moving goalpost fallacy.
How so?
Well, once everyone starts waking up at 5 a.m., because that's the hardcore thing to do.
Then the new standard becomes 4:30 a.m.
Precisely. You have to keep pushing to the next abnormal extreme just to maintain your identity within this self-proclaimed elite. The goalpost keeps moving because the real aim isn't actually sustainable success.
It's separation, proving you're not like the normal people.
Exactly. So these foundational lies, they set up the flawed math. But math alone doesn't keep people hooked. You need psychology. You need levers.
Okay, that takes us nicely into section 2, the rhetorical architecture. This is where we look at how they control you psychologically, the language, the traps.
This is where it gets really insidious, I think. It starts with what we call the command architecture, and it's designed to make you internalize the control system, like an internal panopticon.
Explain the panopticon idea briefly.
Sure, it was this theoretical prison design by Jeremy Bentham, a central tower where one guard could see into any cell, but the prisoners never knew if they were actually being watched at any given moment.
So they had to constantly police their own behavior just in case.
Exactly. Constant self-policing. And this productivity ideology uses the same principle. The commands are absolute, often dehumanizing. Love the pain. Resist every impulse. And that really specific damaging one, treat yourself as a machine.
You're basically told to be at war with your own human nature. Rest, joy, connection. These are framed as weaknesses, things to be disciplined out of you.
But here's the interesting twist. The machine model is never actually self-sufficient in this system. It almost always requires an external enforcement mechanism.
Right, you see this everywhere. The explosion of accountability coaches, mastermind groups, the constant need for a third-party observer to validate your efforts.
That need for external validation, for someone else to witness your grind, your suffering, that's the entire dependency creation cycle that makes the guru system so profitable.
If you believe you can't possibly succeed unless you pay someone to track your metrics and yell at you,
they've successfully monetized your self-doubt.
Yeah.
And that structure, the commands plus the external validation, that's what creates the internalized panopticon.
You become the guard in your own head.
Precisely. Self-policing through obsessive tracking, every minute, every metric, every perceived failure becomes the main way you control yourself. You don't need a boss breathing down your neck.
Because you're doing it to yourself, 24/7. Self-exploitation perfected.
And keeping that intense self-policing going requires some pretty sophisticated emotional manipulation. We identified a kind of taxonomy: fear, shame, and elitism used in very specific ways.
Let's break that down. First, fear-based anxiety. How does that work?
They constantly hammer this rhetoric like society's trying to pacify you. Comfort is the enemy. The middle ground, balance, that's framed as basically giving up, as death.
So they tap into that deep fear of being average, of being normal.
Right. They leverage that primordial anxiety. Basic human needs, like rest or wanting community, are twisted into existential threats. You hear phrases like, if you snooze, you lose, or the herd is comfortable. It's designed to make you feel anxious about just being okay.
And what happens if you slip up?
Yeah.
If you do need rest or feel unmotivated?
Then comes the shame and inadequacy. The language here is surgical. It's designed to trigger shame instantly.
Example.
People seeking balance or admitting they need recovery, they get labeled losers, soft, or they're just waiting for motivation, which implies needing motivation is some kind of deep character flaw.
Wow. So fear keeps you striving, shame punishes any deviation. What's the reward then?
The reward is superiority elitism. If you do manage to stick to the extreme behaviors, they flip the switch. Suddenly you're part of the in-group.
You get the special labels.
Yeah, the grandiose terms, aliens, terminators, masters of the universe, whatever branding they use.
And that plays on pride, right? It justifies the genuinely weird, often unhealthy behaviors you've adopted.
Absolutely. And crucially, it reinforces your isolation. You're special, you're elite. You're separate from all those normal people who just don't get it.
That intentional isolation feels key. Which brings us to maybe the most disturbing command.
You mean the sociopathy command, yeah.
Yeah.
Often disguised as something practical, like leech theory.
Explain leech theory. It sounds unpleasant.
It is. It's the radical pathologization of normal human connection. It basically frames your friends, your family, even your community, not as sources of support or joy.
But as parasites.
As parasites.
All right.
Leeches draining your precious resources, your time, your energy, your focus, even your money.
That's extreme.
It's incredibly extreme. And the behavioral command that follows directly from that is what we call the social severance mandate. You're explicitly told to say no relentlessly, to cut off all non-essential contacts, to actively upset people if they dare by fear with your optimized schedule. Connection itself is framed as a structural weakness in your productivity machine.
Why? Why is driving people into isolation so central to this?
Because social atomization, breaking down social bonds until individuals are isolated, is the perfect condition for control and dependency.
If you've pushed everyone away.
If you've systematically destroyed your support network, your friends, your family, the people who might offer a different perspective thanks to this leech framing. Where do you turn when you inevitably crash? When you burn out?
You got nowhere else to go.
Exactly, you're isolated. The only voice left, the only authority you might trust, is the guru or the system that got you into this mess in the first place. They tell you to work harder, buy their next course, double down on the very things that harmed you.
Destroying community makes it impossible to critically evaluate the system that's exploiting you.
It's a major psychological danger, a key control mechanism.
Okay, so we've seen the flawed foundation and the manipulative rhetoric. Now let's really pick it apart. Section 3, vulnerability analysis. Where does this system actually break down? What are the hidden dangers? Let's hit the logic first.
Right. The logical contradictions and deceptions. The absolute biggest one is false causality. This whole ideology constantly confuses correlation with causation.
Meaning,
yes, hard work is often correlated with success. They often happen together. But this system claims hard work causes success directly and solely, which isn't true.
and they prove this causation by pointing to
Extreme personal examples. The gurus themselves, usually, they generalize these sweeping universal rules from their own, often unrepeatable life stories. It's pure survivorship bias.
Can you give an analogy for that?
Sure. Imagine 1,000 people try a risky mountaineering route known for avalanches. 999 perish. One person makes it to the summit. That one survivor then writes a best-selling book detailing the exact brand of boots they wore, the specific energy bar they ate at 10:03 a.m., and the mantra they chanted. The ideology sells you the boots and the mantra.
While completely ignoring the 999 who did the same things and didn't make it.
Precisely. It focuses on the outlier and pretends the massive failure rate doesn't exist. It ignores the role of luck, conditions, and just baseline probability.
And layered on top of that is the constant false dichotomy. We mentioned it before, this insistence that there's no middle ground.
No nuance allowed. You're either a master or a loser. You're disciplined or you're motivated, and motivation is bad. You're hyper-successful or you're balanced, and balance is for the weak.
It completely cuts off the possibility of living an integrated, holistic life where you can be successful and healthy and connected.
It forces you into these extreme, unsustainable corners. So our sources really crystallized the 5 core deceptions that work together to keep this worldview intact.
Okay, let's list them out. Number 1.
The monastic lie. This is where they borrowed the look, the aesthetics of spiritual devotion. Think extreme fasting, silence, minimalist living, intense early rising.
Like a monk.
Exactly. but they strip out the actual spiritual purpose, enlightenment, connection to something bigger, and apply it solely to achieving narrow material goals, usually more money or market share. It's monk aesthetics for capitalist ends.
Got it. Number 2.
The suffering mandate. We touched on this, the toxic idea that pain isn't just sometimes necessary, but it's a virtue in itself, something to be actively sought out and displayed.
Number 3.
The sociopathy command. That's the leech theory framing community as a threat, demanding isolation as a sign of strength.
4.
The false dichotomy we just discussed. No middle path, no integration allowed. Everything is either.
And the 5th, deception.
This is kind of the endpoint, the ultimate goal. The quantified self. The belief that your entire, messy, complex human experience can and should be reduced to data points, KPIs, metrics, spreadsheets.
And that reduction to data, that quantification, that leads directly to the next major vulnerability, right? The dehumanization and burnout architecture.
Absolutely. Once you truly accept that human-machine model, you start treating yourself, or being told to treat yourself, purely as a productivity unit.
Your intrinsic worth evaporates. Your value is just your last output score. That's dehumanization happening in real time.
And this way of thinking directly fuels what we call the burnout architecture. It's not accidental. The system is designed to cause burnout.
How so? It seems counterintuitive. Wouldn't they want you productive long term?
You think so, but no. The system relies on the systematic denial of recovery and pleasure. It's mathematically engineered to push you just beyond sustainable limits.
Why would they design it that way?
Exhaustion exploitation. Burnout becomes a feature, not a bug. Why? Because when you inevitably crash,
You feel like a failure.
you feel like a failure and you need help. And who's there to sell you the solution?
The same gurus and systems that cause the problem.
Exactly. Your exhaustion creates a perpetual, reliable revenue stream for them. Complex scheduling apps you wouldn't need if you weren't overloaded. Expensive recovery retreats, proprietary supplements, more coaching to fix your lack of discipline.
It's a perfectly closed, profitable loop. You burn out, you feel ashamed, you pay them more to fix the damage their system caused.
And that feeling of shame forces you right back into that binary worldview, winners versus losers. If you're burnt out, clearly you must be a loser.
Which stops you from concluding the obvious. Maybe the system itself is fundamentally broken.
You always blame yourself, never the methodology. It's genius in a really dark way.
What's also fascinating, or maybe disturbing, is that none of this is really new. You argue it's basically the philosophical theft of older, more sophisticated traditions.
Yeah, it's like they raided the philosophical pantry and took useful ingredients but used them to bake something toxic. Look at the Stoicism perversion.
How is Stoicism misused here?
Okay, so true Stoic resilience, going back to the ancient Greeks, is about accepting unavoidable suffering with grace. Focusing on your response to things you genuinely cannot control, loss, fate, etc.
Makes sense.
The modern hustle culture version, it completely flips this. It fetishizes and actively seeks out avoidable suffering. The self-inflicted pain, the unnecessary deprivation.
Turning pain into a personal brand.
Yes, it's not resilience, it's performance. It's attention-seeking self-harm dressed up as virtue. A total misunderstanding, or maybe a deliberate twisting, of Stoic principles.
And you see a similar thing with Eastern traditions.
Definitely. There's a clear Buddhist co-option. They borrow concepts like discipline, detachment from desire, rigorous habit formation. Yeah. All valuable in a spiritual context.
But they repurpose them.
Completely.
Yeah.
Instead of using discipline to achieve spiritual enlightenment or freedom from material craving, they use it for the exact opposite. To acquire more stuff, more status, more market share, narrow, immediate material gain. It uses the methods of letting go to grasp even tighter.
It's like putting monk robes on a Wall Street trader.
That's a good way to put it. The monastic lie in action.
And if you look back historically, there are parallels there too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the intense self-monitoring and quantification tracking every calorie, every minute, every task. It structurally mirrors, say, Benedictine monasticism.
Where monks meticulously tracked their actions.
For spiritual perfection, to align with divine will. But now, the purpose is totally different. Spiritual growth is replaced by ROI, return on investment. Your soul's health is swapped out for your net worth.
And there's an even more direct link to industrial control.
Yes, the ultimate parallel. The entire quantified self movement, the human-machine model. It's basically just Taylorism applied to the self.
Taylorism. Remind us.
Frederick Winslow Taylor, early 20th century, He invented scientific management, using stopwatches and time motion studies to optimize factory workers for maximum efficiency, treating them like parts of a machine.
Breaking down tasks, eliminating wasted movement.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Utterly dehumanizing, focused solely on output. And now, this productivity cult has just taken those same century-old factory management principles.
And convinced people to apply them to themselves in their own lives.
Right. You become both the efficiency-obsessed manager and the relentlessly measured, self-exploited worker, all rolled into one.
Wow. So the whole superhuman discipline thing isn't some futuristic peak performance model.
No. It's a repurposed, cynical toolkit borrowed from monks and factory bosses, designed not to liberate you, but to make you incredibly productive, often for someone else's profit.
Okay. That's a heavy deconstruction. So if we've taken the machine apart and seen the flaws, how do we build something better? Something that actually works for humans?
That's the crucial next step. We move to Section 4, the liberation principle. This is about building that cognitive armor, reclaiming your autonomy, and finding a sustainable path.
Before we build the alternative, let's be crystal clear on mapping the beneficiaries. We touched on this, but who really wins when you sacrifice yourself on the altar of superhuman discipline?
It boils down to two main groups, really. First, the existing capitalist hierarchy. Think about it. They love self-exploiting workers.
If you're already policing your own hours, demanding zero downtime from yourself, minimizing your needs,
Your employer benefits hugely. Reduced pressure for raises or better conditions, increased output, more willingness to accept precarious work. You're doing the exploitation for them.
makes sense. And the second group?
The guru system itself, the coaches, the course creators, the supplement sellers, the app developers who built this whole ecosystem, their entire business model relies on your perpetual dependency.
Fueled by the shame and burnout the system itself creates.
Precisely. Your exhaustion is their recurring revenue. Your self-doubt is their market opportunity.
So when you pull back the curtain, the central deception becomes starkly clear.
Yeah. This entire ideology tries to convince you that your human worth is only about your economic output, and that achieving meaningful existence somehow requires sacrificing everything that actually makes life feel meaningful, right? Health, joy, rest, real connection.
And we fundamentally reject that premise. That trade-off is unacceptable.
It has to be. Which means the liberation principle starts with building the resistance framework. We need new axioms, counter-axioms, based on a holistic view of reality.
Okay, so if the old toxic equation was basically success, willpower, what's the new, more realistic equation?
Our counter-axiom acknowledges the complexity. Success, effort, X. Systems, X, conditions, X, community.
Let's break that down. Effort is still there, obviously.
Of course, effort matters. But it's multiplied by other factors. Systems means building robust structures that support you. Automation, good processes, reliable tools, things that reduce the need for sheer willpower.
Conditions?
That means acknowledging reality. Market timing, systemic opportunities or barriers, luck. Factors outside your direct control, but which massively influence outcomes. You have to account for the environment you're operating in.
And the big one, community.
Yes. Critically, in this new equation, community, your network, your relationships, collaboration, is redefined as a powerful asset, a multiplier, not a liability or a drain like the leech theory claims.
Robust systems and strong community actually increase your chances of success.
Dramatically. This whole counter-axiom forces a shift in priority from extreme over sustainable to sustainable over extreme.
So instead of the constant high-intensity grind that leads to crashing,
We need to embrace the principle of periodization.
where does that come from?
It's borrowed from athletic training. Elite athletes know they can't maintain peak performance intensity 365 days a year. It's impossible.
They break down.
They'd break down, get injured, burn out. So training involves cycles, periods of maximum intensity and effort, strategically alternated with dedicated periods of active recovery and lower intensity.
So it's not about being on or off, but about regulating intensity.
Exactly. Recovery isn't weakness. It's a planned part of the cycle that allows you to rebuild strength and sustain high performance over the long term, not just for one frantic quarter before collapsing,
That makes so much more sense for, well, humans.
doesn't it? And the overall goal shifts too. We move from sacrifice to integration over sacrifice.
The aim becomes holistic success.
Right. Not just hitting one narrow financial target while the rest of your life falls apart. It's about multidimensional achievement, building your career or business while also nurturing your health, your relationships, your intellectual curiosity, your sense of purpose.
Success that actually enhances your overall life rather than hollowing it out from the inside.
That's the vision. It's about making discipline serve you and your whole life, not making you a slave to discipline for its own sake.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are some practical alternatives for integrated living that push back against that machine model?
Well, first, we have to fundamentally redefine discipline itself. Forget the grim, joyless grind. Think instead of aligned motivation.
Aligned motivation.
It means ensuring your discipline serves your authentic desires and values, not just obligations imposed from outside or status goals dictated by some guru.
Can you give an example?
Sure, if you force yourself to track every calorie because your coach insists on it, even though you hate it and it makes you anxious, that's external obligation.
Yeah.
It feels like a chore. It drains willpower.
Right.
But if you build the discipline to exercise consistently because you genuinely love hiking and want to be strong enough to enjoy challenging trails with friends, that discipline serves an authentic desire. It feels purposeful, maybe even enjoyable. It becomes self-sustaining.
So the why behind the discipline matters enormously.
Everything. And related to that, we have to aggressively flip the script on leech theory. We need to see social capital differently.
Relationships as assets, not liabilities.
Absolutely. But, and this is important, this doesn't mean saying yes to everyone or letting your boundaries collapse. It requires selective connection.
Being intentional about it.
Very intentional. Choosing to invest time and energy in strategic, supportive, mutually beneficial relationships that genuinely enhance your life and work. Pruning connections that are consistently draining or toxic is healthy. But the goal isn't total isolation.
It's building a high-quality, supportive network.
Exactly. Rejecting the toxic social severance mandate and recognizing that true, durable achievement is almost never a solo act. That myth of the rugged individual pulling themselves up by their bootstraps ignores the reality of human interdependence.
Embracing community, selectively and strategically, is actually a huge advantage in a complex world. It's not weakness, it's smart.
Which brings us right back to the core idea, the liberation principle. Real, sustainable power doesn't come from self-denial, from treating yourself like a machine, from rejecting your own humanity.
It comes from integrated living.
Yes, where your discipline serves your joy and purpose, where community enables and amplifies your achievements rather than draining you, where you define success by the richness and depth of your whole human experience.
Not just by the narrow, easily measured metrics of output and accumulation that are pushed by a system designed to keep you perpetually striving, perpetually dissatisfied, and perpetually paying for the next fix.
This whole deep dive really has been about forging that cognitive armor, giving you the tools to see through the productivity cultism. It's a roadmap away from self-annihilation and towards authentic, sustainable achievement. And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. So we've torn apart the monk-like discipline myth. Now the real question is, what is the one productivity rule or hustle mindset belief you held onto that you're finally ready to put on the chopping block?
Let us know in the comments.
Question the narrative.
Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical. Thank you for joining us.